Okay, first I would like to thank the organizers, the Institute of Expertise and European Expertise and Expert Institution for the kind invitation to participate in this conference on caring victims of terrorism, and to give me the opportunity of sharing with you our experience in the case of Madrid, March 11, 2004 bombing attacks, in my case, from the forensic side, and some of the lessons we learned from these attacks. That day, at around 7:30, 10 bombs exploded aboard 4 commuter trains in Madrid, in the center of Madrid, in the Atocha station, killing 191 people and injuring more than 1,800, making it the worst terrorist attack in the modern Spanish history and one of the deadliest in Europe after the Lockerbie air crash. The terrorist plan was to synchronize the 4 trains to explode together at the same time in the Madrid, in the Atocha station. But fortunately, 3 of the trains exploded before reaching the station. Otherwise, the number of victims would have been much larger, as you can imagine. Spain, I think that we in Spain, we have a good national plan for emergencies, including all the different agencies involved, rescue, medical emergencies, security, the police, even the army, for the national response. But as much countries in the world, and I would say as all countries in the world, management of dead bodies is not included in these emergency plans. And this is, to me, the key point, because dead body management is regarded as, through the medical legal system, as part of the judicial system and the criminal investigation. So we are isolated from the emergency plans. So we are not familiar with emergency plans, and we are not familiar with the necessity of developing our own plans in the forensic response also. So when you lack planning, you need to improvise. And improvisation is the first step for making mistakes. And when you are dealing with dead bodies, with deceased people, this improvisation leads to loss or gaps in the chain of custody, loss of traceability of the bodies, whether because the mistakes in labeling the bodies or because the labels are lost or any other identification markers. So in the best scenario, that means a delay in the handed over of the bodies to the relatives, to the families. So they need to wait with this uncertainty without know what happened to their missing loved one. In the worst scenario, that means misidentifications. And one misidentification means 2 missing people. The one who was wrongly handed over to the family, and the one who still wait for identification. And although it is clear that a missing person is alive or dead, for relatives, for their friends, for their families, they are neither alive nor dead. And that is a cause of deep pain and suffering on the part of the families, with a severe humanitarian impact. Also, the lack of plans also leads to a deficient support to families. When we don't gather, when we don't collect the information in a standard way, this information is fragmented and dispersed. So the information that we can give to the families is incomplete, to the families and to the authorities. It's incomplete, it's inaccurate, and is a source of confusion and distress among families when, if not, fostering rumors and conspiracy theories, as Javier Bermudez said before in the morning, with respect to the March 11 attacks. So all this finally undermine public trust in authorities and institutions in charge of dead body management. So consequences are a real damage to the deceased, families, and communities' rights. In the case of Madrid bombings, at that time, the forensic institution, although at that time we didn't have a medical legal institute in Madrid. We have some alike. It was the anatomic forensic institution with some specific areas in forensic sciences, anthropology, toxicology, and histopathology, but it was not real a medical legal institute in the sense of having a chain of command. And at that time, of course, we lack of plans, forensic plans to be implemented for mass casualty events. So most of forensic doctors acted as an ordinary case. I remember one of my colleagues who told me, well, we are forensic doctors. We know how to perform autopsies. We can perform 1 or 200, it's the same. Of course, we know how to perform autopsies, but the key point is not how to perform autopsies. The key point is how to deal with a large number of dead bodies, families, samples, and the huge amount of information gathered from all of them. So how to manage this is what we need to plan beforehand. So this lack of plans also leads to a lack of coordination with other agencies. And not only with emergency agencies, but also with the scientific police, also in charge of the identification of the bodies. No trained staff, particularly in mass disasters. So forensic doctors, we work under personal initiatives and criteria. So conclusions were limited and some questions remained unanswered. I think that one of the decisions that at least partially allow us some kind of success in the identification of the bodies, and all the bodies, the 191 were fully identified, was the choice of IFEMA, is a trade exhibition center in Madrid, as the temporary morgue. So this is a facility it's a compound with several pavilions. One of them, Pavilion 6, with 11,000 square meters, is the smallest one of the 11 pavilions, was used as a temporary morgue. So that gave us the possibility of dividing the space in the different areas and to have a specific workflow for all the examinations of the dead bodies and human remains. You can see on the slide the different areas. This 11,000 square meters was divided from the storage of the bodies to the specific area for the release of the bodies to the families, and even also for those families who wanted to recognize the body, to have this possibility to recognize the body before to be handed over. The examination of the bodies was performed together with the scientific police. We didn't have plans to do that, but of course we needed to coordinate as much as possible with the scientific police. They were in charge of gathering information from clothing, personal belongings, to take facial photographs for identification purposes, and fingerprints. All Spanish citizens and residents, all of us are fingerprinted. So many of the dead, many of the deceased were identified very swift through fingerprints. But we made a mistake in the sense that we didn't take samples from the very beginning from all the bodies, and some of them were released before taking samples for potential DNA because they were identified by fingerprints. But at the end of the forensic action, there was more or less 10 coffins full of human remains. And some of the DNA, the genetic profiles of the sample of the fragments, didn't match with any one of the bodies, of the identified bodies. And remember this conspiracy theory, and at the beginning of the process, the question about the presence of suicide bombers in the trains. So it was one of the lessons learned, is the necessity to take samples for all the bodies and fragments, even in the case they can be identified by other means. Well, as I said, finally, all the 191 deceased were fully identified, most of them by fingerprints, 76%, 16% by DNA, and 8% by a combination of different findings, including dental findings. With respect to dental findings, we also have, we had then and we have now problems in gathering the missing persons information, dental information, because many times the family, they really didn't know the kind of dental treatments of their relative, and it is also sometimes difficult to find the dentist that make these treatments or treat these patients. So this is something that is necessary to improve. Well, as a consequence of the lessons learned, because I do this because it was not possible at that time to bring together all the forensic doctors working in the Madrid attacks, because everything you tried to do at that time was seen as something political. You know, even a technical meeting to discuss what kind of things we did right, or what kind of things we did wrong, it was not possible to do. But after the March attacks, we had also a mass casualty event in Barajas airport in 2008 with a total of 156 people dead. And in 2009, the government approved as a law this national protocol for medical, legal, and scientific police intervention in mass casualty events. This is a protocol to try to ensure the proper cooperation between forensic doctors belonging to the Ministry of Justice, we, the forensic doctors, belong to the Ministry of Justice, and the scientific police belonging to the Ministry of Interior, and also to establish a sequence of technical procedures. This is the summary of this national protocol with the different areas to work, and the different structure and the documents to be implemented. And this is just to remark the importance for us regarding the family assistance. So the protocol recognized one specific area for families assistance, is the called Families Assistance Center, at the same level of the recovery actions or working in the mortuary, or the integration of all data, all the information with respect to the missing people and the death, trying to reach the identifications. Because I remember that also one of the speakers talked about that information is crucial for families. And that information needs to be prioritized for families. The kind of information that we can give them, of course, but this information must be sincere and reliable information. And it also give to the institutions, to the authorities, legitimacy from the families and credibility. This information must be updated and maintained, and with maintaining also the privacy of the interviews. And one point that is very important for me, that is to give to the families realistic expectations. I also remember in the case of the Barajas air crash, one of the police in charge of the investigation talked to the families and told them that all that would be identified in 5 days. Because nowadays it seems that DNA is the panacea of the identification process, and it solves everything. And there is also a big mistake. And even sometimes it's not possible to use DNA for identification. And in the case of Madrid Barajas Airport, it was one of the examples, because many of the victims were calcinated with severe burn, and even families complete died in the event. So realistic expectations are a priority also for families in terms of the process, in terms of the duration of the process, so we must not create false expectations in the families. This national protocol include this victims identification guide. It's a small booklet to be given to the families, to the relatives, to explain them very basically the identification process, the timelines, what is the kind of questions that we will be asked in the interviews, the missing person data, the kind of data we need to fill out our forms related to missing persons. And with respect to that, we prefer to use the term missing person instead ante-mortem data, because when we are interviewing a family, for them and for us and for everyone, before the body is identified, is a missing person. We don't know whether that person really died or not. So when we talk to the family, we need to try to avoid the use of ante-mortem data. Well, also to explain then the DNA analysis, what is the kind of analysis we do, the necessity to have the kinship tree, and the use of data, of course, and the correspondent informed consent. So this morning also, Professor Aluni talked about the goals of forensic action, and of course we work for justice, and we provide from the autopsies and the examination of the bodies evidence to the investigation. We need to establish the cause and circumstances of death, but we also contribute as a main point of the forensic task to the identification of the victims, and we need to guarantee and ensure correct and proper management of the deceased, minimizing the suffering of relatives. This is an image of the new Medical Legal Institute in Madrid. Now we have a Medical Legal Institute. 5 years ago started working this institute. We have now a capacity for refrigerated capacity for 210 dead bodies, and every one of the park spaces is equipped with water outlets, electricity, internet access, and drainage. So we can use every one of the park spaces in our plan for a preliminary examination of the bodies, to review and to check the tagging, the correct tagging of the bodies before enter to the autopsy area, to clean the bodies, to take the part of the police, scientific police, the information from the clothing, from the garments, from the personal belongings, to take the fingerprints, etc., before the bodies go to the autopsy room. And we need also not only this general national protocol, is a technical protocol, but we need also a contingency plan for the Medical Legal Institute. So the protocol include this as a mandatory for all Medical Legal Institute to develop their own territorial action plan, because we need the assessment for this plan of these other emergency agencies, civil protection, for instance, or rescue teams, or even medical emergencies, because we don't have all the resources we need for the management of the bodies. But for sure that many of these resources, they have it. They have 500 body bags. I don't have 500 body bags. Maybe I don't need to store 500 body bags in my institute. So that is part of the necessity to coordinate with other emergency agencies. Also to organize our work and our own structure, responsibilities, chain of command, the figure of a forensic coordinator, working strategy, technical protocols, and standard operating procedures, and coordination mechanisms not only with other agencies, with other teams, but also inside our institution, and of course the proper training and overall mock disasters that are essential to be performed together with the rest of emergency teams. So we must be prepared beforehand. This territorial action plan in Madrid include this assistance center for families with 4 different areas, 1 information point, a police office for families to complain the disappearance of their missing loved ones, a missing person office for the collection of missing person data and the reference samples from the families, and a psychosocial assistance area. In our case, this assistance center is, you can see this red circle is the Medical Legal Institute. The other facility is a hospital that was built for COVID patients during the pandemic, and now is almost empty. So it's a good place for to be used as an assistance center for families, and also a place for the handed over to the families of the dead bodies. So the idea is to coordinate our task, our work, with the work of the rest of the emergency teams involved in the response. We cannot work isolated only inside the judicial system. Of course, we are part of the judicial system, but we have also one technical task that, in my opinion, should be coordinated with the emergency response. So, in summary, planification of forensic response in disasters is essential. I think that this planification should be integrated in dead body, or the dead body management should be integrated in emergency plans through the development of these forensic territorial action plans, with the coordination with other agencies, and of course proper training, review in the aftermath, and sharing experiences as we are doing in this conference, and guaranteeing the deceased and families' rights. So we cannot wait for things to happen. So thank you for your attention.